Okay, let's go on ahead and get started here. Thanks everybody that's already hopped in to join us. This call 4 of 5 for our end of quarter events today is going to focus on the Rook protocol and the narrative that we are going to be building off of. So really excited to see some hard work finally become public and get a solid run through and a kind of exclusive preview for a lot of folks here in the DAO. So with that being said, just like the call from a couple hours ago, we'll be doing this right here in the end of quarter channel that will allow for us to screen share our presentation. And then at the end, we will open it up for some questions. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to Hazard, who's going to share his screen, and we'll get right into it.
Yeah, so this is sort of like Kyle said, sort of an exclusive preview, if you want to think about it like that, of a slide deck and presentation that we've been putting together to start talking to partners and talking to folks in the research community or just in the DeFi community in general, and orienting them really around a thesis, sort of a narrative about what Rook is, what we are here to do, and what we can provide for them. And people who've been around the project for a while will know that this is something that we've struggled with a lot. The best kind of through line is MEV, but that's a very complicated subject and has a lot of different facets. And so over the last couple of quarters, as we've started to engage more with partners, we've been able to start developing more of a coherent narrative based on feedback from them about what's important to them, how they view uh, DeFi, and how they view the marketplace and services like the kinds that we provide. And so what you're going to see here is a presentation, the sort of the beta version of a presentation that we are going to be refining and tuning up, and then sharing out much more broadly with thought leaders and industry leaders in DeFi to start uh, uh, pushing and really owning some of these narratives. So your feedback would be much appreciated here, and I'm really excited to dig into some of this. Um, all right, so you can see some beautiful graphics here, right? So much of the rebrand stuff you'll see throughout as well, and that's an ongoing effort. But I'm glad that everybody could join. We've got some really exciting things to share today. Um, traditional finance. In traditional finance, everybody, many people should know by now that order flow, your order flow, and as a trader, as a user of finance, is worth big money. Big money. Recently, payment for order flow, which is this arrangement where market makers are paying brokers to send them retail orders to execute retail trades. This payment for order flow practice has been put under the spotlight, right? Because of this rise of Robinhood and other investment platforms that cater to retail traders. And these platforms, these apps, these brokers pay, or rather send their orders to firms like Citadel Securities, right? Citadel. And Citadel pays them for that order flow. They paid about $1.5 billion to Robinhood last year for the exclusive right to execute trades that users make on Robinhood. And Robinhood is going to use this money to make sure that those users don't have to pay any fees when they trade, so that they make more trades, so that Citadel pays them more money, right? Users get enticed by this fee-free trading. But the brokers and the market makers, like Citadel and Robinhood, they're the ones who end up grabbing the lion's share of the benefit from all of these trades, the lion's share of the value that's happening and really being facilitated by these users who are trading. And we're starting to see these sort of traditional payment for order flow systems and practices creep their way into DeFi. And this is really interesting and not widely understood. Robinhood is already making more money from crypto payment for order flow than from any other source. any other source. So no stocks, options, anything else. Crypto is blowing them all out of the water right now. And they're actually launching a DeFi wallet with zero network fees, which sounds pretty good, right? But just like with zero trading fees and broker fees, it's hiding the fact that the lion's share of the value is actually being kept by these brokers and by the executors, right? Network fees, nobody likes to pay network fees. Having them wiped out sounds like a good deal, right? You can think of this covering of network fees or brokerage fees as payment for order flow. You know, somebody's paying for something that you would otherwise have to pay for. But what's really happening, right? How much value is really being discovered relative to how much is being given to you? And the reality is you don't know. We don't know what kind of a deal you're getting, or how the order's getting executed, or even how they're making money off of those orders exactly. We don't know. It's a black box. You can't even get one of these black boxes unless the black box provider like Citadel comes to you. Like you and I can't go to Citadel and say, please make some money off my orders. Only if you're a broker, right? And the truth is that payment for order flow, or a form of payment for order flow, already exists in DeFi, separate from all of this. It's called MEV, right? And just like payment for order flow you get in traditional finance or it's Robinhood, you're not getting any of this MEV. You generate it, but you're not getting any of it. And this is now a billion-dollar industry with miners and searchers extracting all of that value from your transactions with all of these complex strategies. MEV is not inherently bad, right? There's definitely predatory strategies like front-running, sandwiching, and stuff, but other functions like arbitraging liquidity pools are vital to the health of DeFi. So MEV is just a byproduct of any decentralized leaderless system, and it's going to exist in different forms in any environment, in any blockchain. You know, one of our team members and good friends, Nathan Worsley, once said that trying to solve MEV is like trying to solve gravity. It's not really a well-posed problem, right? So it is up to us, all of us, to find a better and more productive use for it. So this is this concept of an MEV supply chain that was introduced recently by Hasu and Stefan at Flashbots. And we like this a lot. And you can sort of divide this supply chain into two big layers, what we like to call the application layer, everything from the user to the searcher, and the consensus layer, which is everything from the searcher down to the validator, the block producer. And today, when you look at this MEV supply chain, you can see that MEV is flowing from the user down to the block producer, down to the consensus layer. This yellow line here is MEV flowing from users and applications down to the miners and the validators. This yellow line is all of us, users and apps, having all that money, billions of dollars being blown out the door, right? Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars just right out the door. As an industry, we have a lot of brilliant people working on this problem. MEV, right? Ethereum Foundation, Flashbots, us. We've invented things to make sure that all of this money gets blown out of different doors, make sure that no door gets all of it. But nobody's managed to stop it getting blown out the door in the first place. Our blockchains leak. They leak billions of dollars. That is a billion-dollar fact. And so the billion-dollar question becomes, is there a way to bend that line back around so that all of that value stays with the user or stays with the application? Now, to change this arrow, to bend it like that, you'd need to find a way for users and applications and searchers to collude, to collaborate, right? To coordinate. That's not easy. And that's why these systems haven't appeared yet. It's not an easy problem at all. But the incentive is there Users feel this value moving away from them when they use the blockchain. They want to keep a hold of it. Searchers want more finely tuned and profitable arrangements without the kind of zero-sum competition that they experience today that undercuts their bottom line. This is all why we've created Rook. And we're introducing this concept, decentralized payment for order flow, which unlocks MEV for the application layer. It bends this line back around for the first time. So with decentralized payment for order flow, we can take that black box that traditional finance has, and we can open it up. We can build a system that's more efficient, accessible, and transparent. We can make it so that users are able to validate what kind of value was generated from their transaction. They can verify that they received an appropriate reward, that they were paid the proper, true, fair amount of value for their transaction. Searchers will be able to work together and contribute their unique strategies into this exponentially scalable system that's going to reward cooperation instead of competition. And anybody can use it. You can use it, I can use it, your mom can use it. All right? This is the most exciting thing about DeFi. It allows us to build a new kind of financial system. And in the case of payment for order flow, rather than just porting over what exists in traditional finance, this is our chance to create something that's not just fairer, it's superior. It's superior in every way, right? And we think that done right, decentralized payment for order flow is going to lead to some incredible products. Products that traditional finance can't imagine and will never be able to offer. And that's really what we want, right? Web3, it lets you own your money and own your data, but why shouldn't it let you own your order flow? That's what we're going to be able to allow. So we started building the Rook protocol a year ago because there weren't any other research teams serious about addressing this, right? We think that this concept of payment for order flow coming into DeFi is a ticking time bomb. We know what it does in traditional finance, right? Many of us are financial professionals or engineers. Some of the top MEV researchers and traders are on this team. And we wanted to make sure that we, as an industry, were ready for the day when payment for order flow came to DeFi. And we had this vision for a better way to do it. We care deeply about decentralization. We love Ethereum. We care about making sure that this can be done in a way that is efficient, but also secure and decentralized and trustless, and all of the things that we are all working in DeFi for, right? We want this to be an emergent, essential infrastructure for all blockchain networks and have this future that we can build where MEV capture stays decentralized, right? It stays diverse and competitive and accessible to new participants. And you don't get a situation like you have in traditional finance where it's just Citadel and Virtu and a couple of big service providers dominating everything. That would be a bad outcome. This has been a long time in the making. In 2021, we created the first system for hiding MEV, the hiding book. And then soon after that, we introduced the first private liquidation system, hiding vaults. We have our own keeper bot, Ninja. This is the first and probably still the only MEV bot operated by a DAO. And we built one of the largest and most well-diversified DAO treasuries in DeFi and scaled a DAO in a way that I haven't seen in any other project. And recently, this quarter, we took a huge next step. At the beginning of April, we launched a revolutionary new piece of technology, the Rook Coordinator. This is the culmination of more than a year of work from some of the most advanced researchers in DeFi. This takes everything that we've learned about MEV-aware systems. It makes them more robust, more autonomous, and more decentralized than any other system in the world. It is production grade, and it is the backbone of this new paradigm we call decentralized payment for order flow that is going to change MEV and MEV-aware application design as we know it. It's because it allows users and applications to unlock for the first time the massive amounts of value hidden in their order flow, their MEV. At the heart of this protocol is this regulated pool of high-frequency keepers, searchers, bots. And this includes some of the most advanced blockchain automation in the world. These are the best of the best. We think about them like F1 cars, constantly being tuned by the best pit crews, all right, constantly optimizing for efficiency. They already know how to discover MEV. And what we do is we can connect them through the coordinator to an open marketplace for arriving orders and transactions and allow them to discover all of the value that those transactions hold in a way that doesn't harm their own profit margins and which benefits users and the network as a whole. When an order gets sent through the Rook protocol, these keepers are acting like some kind of a super advanced router or matching engine, and they're brilliant at it. They are better than, a 1-inch or a 0x router or any kind of smart contract. You should ask yourself, why don't searchers just use 1-inch or 0x? It's because they're better. Every searcher is its own router, its own custom router. They're off-chain. They have better strategies, better compute power. They're always evolving. And they can protect you from front-running and other negative MEV. And the user doesn't even have to pay gas. They'll pay it all, right? And we don't have one. Coordinator lets us have many different keepers with many different kinds of strategies. And each of these keepers are then competing to find the best way to execute that order, execute that transaction. And once they find that way, they can initiate an auction for the right to settle it, the exclusive right to settle it. These auctions take place over a matter of seconds, allow each keeper to submit a bid in the Rook token, which is how we represent MEV in the ecosystem. Then the protocol is going to determine the winner through a green light algorithm, which takes a few additional factors into consideration, including reputation and stake and randomness score. But it will always maximize MEV for the user. This is a credibly neutral mechanism that will always maximize the value for the user. And that Rook bid is going to be distributed as decentralized payment for order flow. 80% of it's going to go to the user. Some portion is going to go to Rook stakers, and some is going to go to the DAO treasury. Some of it's going to be burned. And it's important to note here that all of the Rook being bid in an auction is bought off the open market by these keepers. These aren't emissions being rewarded. There are no Rook emissions, actually. With some Rook being burned with every transaction, the token's actually deflationary. As the number of these keepers goes up, because we can coordinate them, and as they join the network, it opens up more strategies and more coverage, and it gives us better prices through better and better routes until eventually we can optimize any kind of transaction anywhere on any chain. This is the power of coordination, right? And the most amazing protocol, or part of this protocol, is just how flexible it is. Because of that coverage, because of how flexible these keepers are. And when we chat with other DeFi protocols, we have literally figured out new use cases just on a phone call. It is super exciting stuff. We've used it to build all kinds of things, so I'm going to run through a few. This is a big one, and this is the one that everybody's probably the most familiar with at this point. It's the first positive sum trading protocol. It's amazing. It lets you make on-chain trades just like an order book. It shreds huge volumes, right? And it gives you the best price every time. And it's completely free. It's actually better than free. It pays you a fee for every trade. It pays you a fee. It's decentralized payment for order flow at work. This protocol is super flexible. It can fill orders entirely on an order book. It can use external liquidity to match those orders. It can do it in any kind of combination you like. To make it easy for everybody to use, we built this state-of-the-art trading application we call Rook Trade. This product allows anybody to trade directly on the Rook protocol, get the same price as the market makers and the automated traders that are using the API directly, and all the MEV as well. It is just fantastic. We have an amazing team making it better and better every day, and really you should be trading here, right? Especially if you're trading in chunks of more than $5,000 to $10,000, this is where you should be trading, nowhere else. It's really great. I'm going to show you some trades here just so you can see why. We've seen some really fun examples of just how efficient this kind of a system can be. So here we've got a route from a keeper called Copernicus. It filled 4 orders simultaneously and netted a total of $120 of MEV that got split between these users. It's just really amazing the kind of routes that can get calculated here. you never really know what's going to happen with some of these trades. We've seen some really head-scratching stablecoin swaps, right? Can you imagine swapping 1-to-1 for a stablecoin with zero fees? You actually get paid $34. Where did that $34 come from? You have to look at the transaction and see. We can handle perfect stablecoin to stablecoin trades, the exact amount in and out, and actually earn you money on top of it, right? You can't do this anywhere else. We've had people ask, okay, but how big of an order can it fill, right? We saw during this quarter massive volume, some of the largest orders that we've ever seen on chain. Almost 20% of the daily volume in just a few orders that went through the Rook app and netted this huge whale about $60,000 of payment for order flow. Really just incredible. And this app, you can connect to it as an API and use this directly in your trading strategies. And we know there's a huge demand for this out there because active market making on chain is horrible. It sucks. And we know because we do it, right? And this protocol makes it so easy. And I think we're going to see a lot of firms that do centralized exchange market making start to use it to provide liquidity on chain because it's just like the experience they would get on a centralized exchange. We already have a few on board and they're loving it. And there's more lining up. And the real pitch here is that you make one integration and it connects you to everything. It connects you to all of DeFi. Ultimately, it's going to connect you to all different blockchains and let you settle anywhere, right? And you don't have to pay gas. You don't have to pay fees. You don't have to worry about MEV. You just stream at prices that if you got filled at, you would be happy. And if your orders get hit, you get filled. And you make MEV. You make extra money on top of your spread. It's impossible not to make money with this as a market maker. I think it's just an incredible chance for us to see a lot more advanced strategies and liquidity come on chain than ever before. It's really amazing. So since launching this in mid-April, we've seen about $300 million worth of trades processed through the protocol. So this is good volume. Many days we're looking at volume that's well above the more established protocols like 1inch and 0x Matcha. And these are all limit orders. So this is a niche market, and it's not typically used by retail traders. And so we're just getting started here. The coordinator is the core infrastructure for all of this. And trading is an important part of that. But we're at this fun part where we get to build all these super exciting products and start growing them and just kind of be carried along by this core infrastructure that we've laid down. It's really fun. And of course, we have some new protocol contracts coming up, some new trading contracts that are going to make the experience of trading through the protocol way better than it is today. And honestly, way better than on a lot of other protocols out there, I think. And we can only speculate what this is going to mean for the volume and the profitability of the protocol. But I think it's going to be very exciting for a lot of people. And we're very excited to get that into production. What else can we do with it? What else can we do with this decentralized payment for order flow protocol? Well, what else is there trading, right? What else do you use a blockchain for? Well, lots of things. And you might not always be trading on our app. So let's imagine if we wanted to have a box where you could just feed it any transaction that you're going to make anyway and have money come out of the box. Is it possible to do that? Can we do that? We can actually do that. It is pretty magical. You just start sending it transactions and you start getting money. There's literally no reason not to use it. And if you look at this, you should be a little bit worried if you care about Ethereum, you care about decentralization, right? Because, the future of user interaction with the blockchain, it might rely on RPCs and relays and stuff like this. And if we're able to extract this MEV, you should be worried about the centralization potential for some service provider to come in and use this to entice infrastructure providers or wallets or application developers to use them, to send them orders your orders, user orders. And the thing is, the more of this MEV gets generated by any one party, the more the network is going to become centralized, which is why we think it's really important that you have a decentralized solution to this to make sure that that doesn't happen. We really need to stop that from happening, and that's why we've been building a decentralized payment for order flow RPC. This isn't payment for order flow. This is decentralized payment for order flow. You need to remember that because you don't have to feel guilty, right? This is good for Ethereum. This is the Rook RPC. Okay, so it takes what you give it and it gives you a better deal. It's like auto tune for your transactions. Okay, it's completely transparent. There's no black boxes. There's no backroom handshake deals. It's trustless. It's decentralized. And it makes sure that the MEV that it discovers is sent back to where it came from, to the originators of the transactions. That could be you. That could be an application. Could be the infrastructure provider. If it concentrates the value with itself, it's going to lead to some kind of runaway centralization. It doesn't do that. If you care about decentralization and you care about what happens to this MEV, then you really need to be paying attention to this kind of RPC, the Rook RPC. It makes sure that the people who generate the MEV are the ones who receive it. Hasn't this been done before? Doesn't Flashbots have an RPC? What about Backrun Me? Does anybody use Backrun Me? Okay, there was an attempt. And we have love in our heart for those teams, but none of them come close to the level of sophistication and the level of MEV capture and return that this RPC has. And they also weren't very transparent. Now, this infrastructure, as with all of the Rook infrastructure, is self-regulating and is stewarded by a DAO. There is nothing up our sleeve here. We're working in the best interest and we're fully accountable to our token holders and to the broader community and industry for everything that happens. And it's more than that, even just in terms of features, like we have adjustable latency. It's generalized, it's not just backrunning. You can send anything through and let the keepers figure it out. It's like panning for gold. One of our engineers described it as farming your own transaction flow, and I like that. And any kind of protocol can also plug into this, not just users. I don't think Backrun Me would be able to do this, for example. GMX is the largest perpetual futures exchange by volume. They settle on 2 different blockchains. Neither of them are Ethereum. And they are wildly successful. And they have a problem, though. Oracle front running. This is classic application layer MEV. It's an old problem. Synthetics faced it. Many others have faced it. Now we can solve it. Send the Oracle updates through the Rook RPC. The keeper will pick up the update, settle it with the arbitrage, and pay most of the value of the arbitrage back to the exchange, back to GMX. How about that? It's dependable, it's reliable, it's transparent. They can see what's going on. Everybody can see. That's the difference. This is just an example of how you can solve really difficult problems that have been around for a long time in a really simple way now. It unlocks all kinds of potentials. We have a lot more to say about this RPC. You'll be seeing more of that soon. Let's move on to something else, though. What about smart contracts? Could you do decentralized payment for order flow on smart contracts? A lot of smart contracts run on arbitrage. AMMs, lending markets, they rely on it. You have to have it. You can measure their efficiency by the efficiency of that arbitrage. What if there's a way they could somehow, build Rook coordination directly into the smart contract itself? Is that possible? Put some boxes, you put some arrows. Yeah, it's possible. This is one of the most interesting things to me personally. And in the long term, this could prove to be one of the more impactful things that we're able to unlock. Direct smart contract integrations using a new kind of primitive that gives priority access to our sort of regulated group of keepers that are incentive aligned using the coordinator to act in that protocol's best interest and discover MEV for that protocol that they can then use and pass on to their users or use for anything else. It's programmable. They can do what they want with it. And this is really going as far upstream as possible in that MEV supply chain, right? This is going directly to the source. It's baked right into the smart contract. MEV-aware protocol design, contract design. This is it. We give you its turnkey primitive. And the effects are so fascinating. We don't really even have a name for it yet. This is in heavy development right now. We can still look at some concrete examples from discussions we've been having. Talk about stable swap invariants, stable swap AMMs. So there's this common wisdom, right? High fees, liquidity fees, like the pool fee for trading. High fees, it's good in high volatility. And then low fees are good in low volatility, right? You want to make sure that your pool is getting trades, but that when the prices are going too wild, that the LP, the liquidity providers can claw some of that volatility back in the form of fees. And there's this never-ending argument between Curve and Uniswap v3 about what's better, higher fees or lower fees. But why not both, right? You can create all-weather stablecoin swaps with a dynamic fee. If you're equipped with something we've called the Rook semaphore in the past, one of these primitives, you could build a stable swap pool that's able to capture arbitrage as a dynamic fee and feed it back into the liquidity providers. That'll enhance their returns in all different kinds of market conditions. And in fact, even if you're not looking at returns, if you're looking at it from the trader's perspective, it'll make sure that the pools are balanced more efficiently because that arbitrage is what balances them. And so traders are going to have a higher capital efficiency in that pool. Pool will attract more routes. It's just better overall. It makes the entire pool more efficient. And we've been looking at this with MStable and with B Protocol and with a number of others. And the results we've seen are really exciting. We're really excited about this. You can do the same thing for maybe a more exotic class of AMM, something called a replicating market maker. And these are based on an interesting paper and essentially allows you to kind of invert the typical relationship a market maker has and replicate any kind of payoff curve that you like. And what this lets you do is build structured products entirely on-chain. You can build things that have the same payoff as an option or as a futures contract, and many other different kinds of things. And these markets are driven entirely by arbitrage, which is sort of the key here, right? Because, well, we can make arbitrage more efficient. Folks like Primitive are building these, and they've actually measured what they call the replication accuracy. So how far off from the theoretical curve is the practical curve, the curve that they see based on network arbitrage. And it always diverges. And they know why. It's because it's inefficient to arbitrage on chain because of MEV and because of gas. And coordination changes that. It changes that. And if they use the Rook mechanism, that would allow for higher replication accuracy. Let's look at one more. This is another sort of R&D style integration. So there's this concept of TWAM, the time-weighted average market maker. Some of you may have heard of this. This was based on a research post from Paradigm. There's a couple folks integrating these or building these out in the wild now. This is a type of AMM that's really for large multi-block trades that can kind of emulate a TWAP or a dollar cost averaging. They're completely on-chain and trustless. There's a big market for these things. Folks who want to kind of have trustless, set it and forget it kind of orders for very large amounts. And you could see these integrated in many different places, but the price accuracy requires efficient arbitrage. You have to continuously update this bonding curve, each block, as the trade progresses. And again, as in the other examples, doing this on chain can lead to a loss of efficiency in that pricing curve. And so using a Rook mechanism, a primitive embedded in that smart contract to give them access to our keepers, they could improve pricing for users that want to trade on those contracts. That's very appealing. And it's appealing to us because in all of these examples, what that means is that interactions with these smart contracts mean interactions with the Rook protocol. They mean volume through the Rook coordinator. As we've seen, volume and order flow is the lifeblood of the system, right? We translate that into revenue. And it also benefits these protocols themselves because most of that revenue, more than most, right, 80% plus, ends up back in their hands. And that gives them a lot of interesting things that they can then do and pass on to their users. Very cool. These are some of the examples in just 2 quarters that we've been able to look at of how decentralized payment for order flow using Rook coordination can unlock MEV for the application layer, right? By enabling decentralized payment for order flow for these 3 categories, trading, general transactions, and even smart contracts, we can really change the way that MEV is practiced and protocols are designed on chain. The use cases are extremely broad and pretty much embrace everything we normally think of as DeFi. And again, the thing we ask everybody to ask themselves is whether you're a user or a builder, Web3 is letting you own your money and your data, so why not your order flow? Why not your order flow? That's what we do. We let you own your order flow. That's it. Let's do some questions. This is actually the first time I ran through this, so you all got the maiden voyage.
Really awesome. Yeah, so ping me. I'll unmute you if you've got some questions you want to ask. Right, looks like just some positive sentiment coming through the chat right now. No questions from anybody? Got a few typing. Give it a sec. Well, Hazard, I do want to just give a quick shout out to you, to Watts, and to Troy for all the awesome work that went into this as well. I know that we're excited to kind of give this little pilot run here in front of the DAO, but maybe you or Troy could hop in and talk a little bit about where we see this headed next.
Is that a question for me?
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
happy to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, this deck and all of these narratives was put together based on a lot of different conversations. And like I also said, it's a work in progress. This was the first kind of this was the shakedown cruise for it, really. And so it's going to be tweaked, it's going to be tuned, updated. Some slides are going to get shuffled, some graphics are going to get finished. The language is going to be adjusted. And we're basically going to take it on the road, right? We're going to invite a bunch of folks to come and have a look and see what we're up to, see what we're building, and see if they might want to plug into it. And there's a lot of narratives here. There's payment for order flow coming to DeFi, and what kind of solution is good or best for DeFi to deal with that? Because you can't really hope it goes away. It's going to be here. It's a mechanism that works. And so it's really about taking that mechanism and owning it in a way that is DeFi native. And it does sort of what we've done for other kinds of primitives, like lending or trading, making it something that you can use for your benefit, something that you can rely on without having to trust your counterparty, and that's decentralized and maintains security. So the goal here is really to say, we know you want payment for order flow because it's a money button. It's like a monetization button that you can press. But a lot of protocols and a lot of builders and users, they know what it means to press that button. They know that it's not good. It's not a good thing. Payment for order flow is controversial and probably predatory to some extent in traditional finance. And it builds these structures like Citadel that concentrate a lot of power and lead to centralization and structural disadvantages for regular folks who want to use the financial system. And what we want to do is step into that conversation and say, it doesn't have to be that way, right? We can build systems that give you the benefit of owning what was yours to begin with, the MEV in your orders, your transactions, and lets you do with it what you like. And it isn't going to result in an outcome like traditional finance. It's not going to result in an outcome like Citadel, right? Rook will not become Citadel, not with this protocol at least, right? It keeps that from happening. It's right there. It's in the code. It diffuses all of that. And so they won't feel guilty about pressing this button. They'll feel guilty about not pressing it because not pressing it is just as disastrous. And so it's really about reintroducing this concept of payment for order flow, which is kind of a cursed concept, because of what traditional finance did to it. They made it suck. They make a lot of stuff suck. And reframing it and saying, well, if you take it to its limit, though, if you treat it like a public good, then you get something very different than you see in traditional finance. You get something that's pretty freaking awesome. And I think once we cross that mental threshold, people will start to see that, oh, this is exciting. And we've already started to see that with a lot of the partners and folks we've been talking to. And actually, if Troy, if you're around, maybe you can just give people a flavor who haven't heard about how some of those conversations go, because we've been going to some conferences and things this quarter, sending Troy and Kyle out there. So Troy, are you around? Why don't you jump in? And some of this is from some of the pitches that Troy's been able to give folks, and just kind of tell people what kind of things they're saying and what kind of response you get.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can.
Hey, sorry, I'm driving. Yeah, so it's really been tremendous. I've been able to get to Denver and West Palm Beach for permissionless and consensus in Austin, and really just getting on the floor and just meeting people, meeting prospective partners, but not only prospective partners, just people involved in crypto in general, right? Like, it's really a light bulb moment when you kind of walk them through the process of what we're doing, and it's super exciting to see. And I'm so pumped for this next quarter when we have some of these products coming out and some of these partners coming online. Just tremendously excited for where we're going.
Yeah, Troy was a huge help in putting some of this together and getting the real field research done, the field work, going out and talking with people. So much of finding that market and finding that message is about kind of letting other people hold up a mirror and letting you see yourself and what you're doing through their eyes, through the customer's eyes, through the partner's eyes. And that's what we were able to do this quarter. And it's benefited us a lot because it's let us tune a lot of what we talk about and a lot of what we don't talk about, because there's obviously a lot here that we don't talk about. And this actually still probably has too much detail, so it depends on your audience, but we have a much better handle on what people are interested in talking about and hearing and needing. Ultimately, it's about fulfilling a need, right? And much better handle on that than we did in the past. And a lot of that's due to the work that Troy and others were able to do by going out and really meeting people and talking with people, talking to them about their problems, and introducing them to what we're doing. It's been very successful.
It looks like we got a quick question here from Summer Fridays, fitting right now, I would say. Out of the protocol/teams that we've already pitched the coordinator to, what's the biggest obstacle, either perceived or functional, that prevents them from onboarding? I can quickly touch on that, at least from the conversations that I've had, and Troy and Hazard have been on a lot of these other partnership calls as well with me. I would say that there's kind of two typical parts of this conversation. The first one is, so a lot of these protocols have their own roadmaps and development cycles that they're in. And so if you think about, just like how we're in the process of developing the transaction relay and the protocol upgrade, and that we have, dedicated engineering resources towards those projects in our own internal roadmap. Some of that is the same for talking with other protocols, where they're excited completely about what we're building and looking forward to partnering. But in terms of bandwidth on their team, that sometimes can be a challenge, and that's something where our lean and mighty engineering team that we've got have actually stepped up and taken on a good chunk of that work. But we're also in the process of and stop me if I'm going too far here, Joey. But we're in the process of making it so much easier for folks to integrate through how we're building some of our products and the documentation around it as well. So I wouldn't say so much that is an obstacle, but timing can be challenging for some of those protocols. The other thing is what goes into it from our side, in terms of not just identifying a problem or a need that we can help them address, where not many, like, take GMX, for example, not many people understood the problem that they were actually facing with their Oracle updates. People would have thought, okay, they're integrating with GMX, they're just going to send user orders through you, because that sounds like a standard type of integration. But what when we get our teams together talking with these prospective partners, we really get into kind of that needs analysis and try to understand the pain points of their protocol and where they can improve efficiencies. So not only on that side of on an engineering level of what really can be addressed to make things better, but also some of the analytics side that Penguin and the product team have also talked about in the last call, where we are able to start running the numbers and try and verify and validate the value that could be perceived from these integrations. And we do that to help prioritize our integration queue, which I think we'll talk a little bit about what that's looking like in the next call. But kind of between those two things, really the main takeaway is that everyone we talk to is super excited about working with us. And sometimes it's just a challenge of finding the right needs to address, or finding the right bandwidth or part of the development cycle where we can start plugging and playing into how we're going to work together. All right. Does anyone else have any other questions for us here on the kind of decentralized payment for order flow narrative? Of course, Summer Fridays. Happy that you asked a question. Happy for you to be here. All right. Well, if nobody has any other questions, we'll wrap this call up again with just that last bit of housekeeping. We'll be running through the operations portion of the Q2 quarterly report in just over an hour here in the same end of quarter voice chat channel. This call will also have a recap posted once that's ready and wrapped up, and we'll share that with everybody. But again, one last time, an absolutely huge thank you to Hazard, Watts, and Troy for putting all the work that went into this, and for I would say a pilot run, absolutely well done job for Hazard as well. But with that, we can go on ahead and wrap this call, and we'll hopefully see a bunch of you guys in 70 minutes ish. But thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you soon.